Good evening and welcome to a brand new sports show. My name's Neil Reynolds and this is Sports Weekly. So, what's in store for you tonight? We bring you the news and gossip from around the world of sport. Then I'll be talking to Aidan Magee from Sky Sports News HQ to get his views on the Premiership season so far. Also, we'll go behind the scenes as we take a look at the partnership between Red Bull Racing and Puma and find out what the team's aspirations were for the current Formula One season. And finally, we hope to leave you inspired as we look at the story of two young female golfers as they attempted to qualify for the Ladies US Open golf tournament. But first, here's the latest news and gossip. Each week, we'll be bringing you the latest news and gossip from the world of sport. We talk football, rugby, cricket, tennis, golf, and much, much more. So, what a great weekend of sport we've seen, and where to start? Well, I think it has to be in Paris. Tennis player Andy Murray became the first Briton to be crowned the #1 player in the world on Saturday. Murray only needed to get to the final of the Paris Masters after Novak Djokovic had lost in the quarters to Marin Cilic. Murray was due to play Milos Raonic, but the Canadian withdrew before the match, meaning Murray, after a total of 76 weeks as #2, was at last the #1 player in the world. He went on to beat John Isner of the USA in 3 sets in the final on Sunday and will now come to London for the World Tour Finals at the O2 Arena, literally on top of the world. Now, the top of the Premiership swung backwards and forwards this weekend. Manchester City could only draw with Middlesbrough, and manager Pep Guardiola was asked if the Barcelona win was the reason for only getting a draw.
So we play good. So David play amazing, and Jesus play amazing, and Kevin as well. And I don't have regrets. And so I am sad for the players. And when you don't deserve, you don't deserve. When I am a guy who lost in White Hart Lane, and I am in the press conference say they were better. So congratulations. So.
This left the door open for Chelsea, who, if they beat Everton, would go top. Well, in probably the best performance of any team so far this season, Chelsea cruised to a 5-0 win to go top, with 2 goals from Eden Hazard, but for less than 24 hours. Liverpool had the chance to leapfrog the West London side and did it in emphatic style with a 6-1 home win over Watford, with Philippe Coutinho and Sadio Mane running the show. Arsenal and Spurs still kept in touch with the top by playing out a passionate 1-1 draw at the Emirates, but Gunners manager Arsene Wenger thought the penalty given to Spurs was harsh.
I think the penalty was harsh because from where I sit, it looked harsh. Didn't look dangerous to score. It didn't look any deliberate foul from outside. After even speaking to some referees, they can give it, you cannot give it. So personally, being manager of Arsenal Football Club, I prefer not to give it.
Manchester United got back on track with a 3-1 win away at Swansea, with Ibrahimovic back on the score sheet. Sunderland managed their first win of the season away at Bournemouth, meaning that manager David Moyes can keep his job, if the rumours are to be believed, for at least another 2 weeks, with the international break coming up. Now, the Championship saw another managerial casualty as Queen's Park Rangers parted company with Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank after a 1-1 draw away at Nottingham Forest. Newcastle United are still the team to catch as they held on to their 3-point lead over Brighton at the top with a 2-1 win over Cardiff City. Interim England manager Gareth Southgate has named his squad for the games against Scotland and Spain, and ex-Arsenal player Jack Wilshere has been recalled, as has Spurs striker Harry Kane, having recovered from injury. Dele Alli misses out through injury, and Manchester United pair Luke Shaw and Chris Smalling, well, they're not in the squad at all. England face Scotland at Wembley on Friday in a World Cup qualifier. Australia slipped to a 4th successive Test defeat as South Africa won the opening Test of their 3-match series by 177 runs in Perth. Set a huge total of 539, the hosts were bowled out for 361 shortly before tea on the final day, thanks to 21-year-old pace bowler Kagiso Rabada's 5 for 92. Usman Khawaja made 97, and Peter Neville an unbeaten 60 for Australia, who lost their previous series 3-0 in Sri Lanka. The victory was South Africa's 3rd in a row at the WACA in Perth after 2008 and 2012. Now, here are some of the rumours in the papers today. Dimitri Payet has not ruled out a move away from West Ham in January. Steven Gerrard is ready to announce his retirement as LA Galaxy lost in the MLS playoffs. And ex-England defender Wayne Bridge has reportedly signed up to go into the jungle on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And now a reminder of what's coming up over the next week in sport. England versus India start the first Test in a 5-match series tomorrow in Rajkot, with England coming off of the back of a disappointing loss in Bangladesh last month. England versus Scotland in football, as I said, is on Friday the 11th. The Rugby League Four Nations continues with New Zealand against Scotland on Friday and then England against Australia on Sunday. The big question this week, however, is can Lewis Hamilton fight back as next weekend sees the penultimate Grand Prix of the season in Brazil, with Hamilton hot on the heels of Nico Rosberg. The title can be won, so don't miss the drama as the race unfolds. Well, I hope that's given you a feel of what we'll be bringing you each week when we look at the latest news and gossip from the world of sport. Now, moving on to the next segment that we call Sport of the Week. Now, each week, we'll invite a guest into the studio to talk about a specific sport or sporting topic. This week, we are delighted to welcome Sky Sports News HQ reporter Aidan Magee to give us the latest on what's going on in and around the clubs that you support. So I'm here with Aidan Magee. Aidan, thank you so much for joining us here today. Now, at the start of the season, I think they were talking about the battle between Pep and Mourinho. What do you think of the chance it's suddenly becoming between Jurgen Klopp and Antonio Conte at the top of the Premier League?
Well, those two have certainly, the latter two you mentioned, have certainly started a bit better. I mean, well, we say started, I mean, the first 3 or 4 games, I think United and City looked very good. I think the turning point for United in this sort of opening 11-12 game period was probably the derby. But even from then, City haven't really kicked on. It was shortly after that that they started hitting their fallow period. In the meantime, Liverpool and Chelsea, I mean, Chelsea even on September 24th, I think, lost to Arsenal 3-0. And everyone was thinking, well, having lost to Liverpool at home, is that them out of it now? Because you can't lose too many games if you want to win the league. I do think, though, that compared to the late 90s and early 2000s, when you'd have to go through a campaign having lost just 3 or 4 games, I mean, it's possible to finish third and lose only 3 or 4 games. I think we have to allow a bit more of a margin now, possibly because the teams lower down are slightly stronger, as we saw with Leicester last season. But yeah, as you say, latterly, I mean, I watched the Liverpool game and I thought they were really outstanding. I really did. I mean, they went at Watford, you know, at breakneck speed almost. I mean, they were up ahead within sort of 20 minutes, and they were 2 up soon after. And there was a flurry of goals in the second half. They were 3-0 up at half-time. I mean, Watford had a 10-minute spell in the second half, and they went into the game, in fact, with 3 clean sheets. So I didn't see where that was coming, but it just seems that now with, 30-odd goals, they found the formula for scoring. They've just got to keep them out at the other end.
Obviously, it was the North London derby this weekend, and you know the spoils were shared. Are Arsenal and Spurs suddenly becoming, you know, the poor relation to clubs like Man City and Liverpool and Chelsea?
No, I don't think so at all. In fact, Arsenal have started much better than I expected. I didn't see any massive movement in the transfer market last summer. I thought it was going to be more of the same. I still don't necessarily want to tip them to win the league, but I think they may be closer this year than they were in recent years. They don't look as soft in certain areas of the team and vulnerable. As for Tottenham, well, I can see an improvement again. Yes, they're drawing games, probably a few too many, but they look very solid, and they were very convincing against Manchester City, who, of course, were everybody's pre-season title hopes. So I sense an air of confidence about Tottenham. It's 5 games unbeaten now, I think, against Arsenal in North London derbies. I mean, that never used to happen. And I think there's a little bit of confidence, a bit of arrogance among the Tottenham, well, the club as well as the players when they go into those games. There's a change of mentality in the last season and a half when it comes into big games. I think that might come into play later in the season.
Now, the other end of the table, Sunderland got their first win of the season against Bournemouth. Is David Moyes going to keep his job? Now he's obviously got a 2-week reprieve with the international break.
Yeah, I mean, he probably won't want that reprieve, actually, because, you know, momentum is so key in football. Absolutely. It's so important, it's almost become a cliche. And so having won at Bournemouth, which was very unexpected because Bournemouth were in decent form, it looks like he's found a player again, or rediscovered a player that he knows well from Everton, and that's Victor Anichebe. Jermaine Defoe scored a penalty again. Look, I think it's a little bit too early. I mean, again, Sam Allardyce, even before he left for the England job, was saying that the transfer market has been beyond frustrating. Now, all that tells me is that the club aren't investing in the right areas. That's the manager's way of saying they're not spending enough. And I think David Moyes certainly found that. He gave enough signals before the end of the transfer window.
Well, you know Sam Allardyce quite well. Would Sam go back to Sunderland if Moyes gets the sack?
I think when you're any manager, you look at a situation and think, can I keep them up? And I don't think Sam would look at that project or that assignment, as it were, and just say, can I keep them up? Maybe he can't. Maybe it's too late. Remember last time it was kind of early October, but it looks a big, big job. He doesn't want a relegation on his CV. No manager does. He's very proud of the fact that he's never taken a team down. Right. He's been in some real battles in the past with Blackburn and Bolton, even West Ham to a degree. So he doesn't want that on his CV.
Now, I know that you're a Queen's Park Rangers fan. Obviously, there's been, you know, an exit at Queen's Park Rangers. Are you happy that Hasselbank's gone, and who do you think will probably take over?
Look, 47 games, I think 14 wins, 15 draws. It's mid-table form. Yeah. He didn't spend big last summer. Gone are the days of the exorbitant wages and transfer fees that really, you know, brought the club close to ruin. So I wouldn't say I was pleased to see him go, because I think he was trying to take the club in the right direction. When you've got young players and you've got players who are new to the league, either from lower divisions or from overseas, it does take time. I mean, QPR have never won at Nottingham Forest. 33 visits, back to 1935. They got a battling draw with 10 men on Saturday. I think it was pretty harsh that he was sacked at that point. I think QPR will be looking probably a bit further down the division. Maybe somebody who's got a season or two under their belt already. But I could see someone like Ainsworth. I'd like to see Ian Holloway come back, but then working for Sky, I don't want to lose him either. So.
No, of course. So, predictions, top 4 Premier League this season. Who do you see taking those 4 Champions League places?
Top 4, well, I don't want to seem conservative in my choice, but I do think Manchester City, I do think they've got the squad to last the pace. I think Liverpool will outscore most teams in most games, but I also think they'll come up against some more game-smart, world-weary defenders who will maybe snuff out some of their attacking potency while exploiting them at the end. And maybe at the other end, maybe when they come up against West Brom or something, it might be a different story. Who can come up with a tactical plan to nullify what they do. I think it will Arsenal third. I think Chelsea are fourth. I'm not sure. I'm not convinced Chelsea can maintain this.
Okay.
But I think they'll get top 4. And I think Tottenham will be 5th.
Aidan, thank you so much for your time. Hope you come back again.
Absolutely.
End of the season.
To,
Have another chat.
Indeed.
Thanks for coming. Thank you.
Cheers.
Now, each week we'll be visiting sports teams, grounds and organisations to try and show you the things you wouldn't normally see as we go behind the scenes. This week, something special, as we bring you the livery launch for this year's Red Bull Formula One racing team and their new partners, Puma. We were invited to an exclusive pre-season event, and we hope you enjoy what we saw.
Let's see what Puma and Red Bull Racing have developed for 2016.
The 2016 Puma Red Bull Racing Team Kit and new car livery. A big welcome to Daniel Ricciardo and Daniel Kvyat.
The car looks fantastic. How competitive can Red Bull be this season?
Well, let's see. I mean, it's a long season, 21 races. I think we're going to go into the season a little bit on the back foot, but you know, we're hoping to make a lot of progress during the course of the year, and I think it's going to be a season of two halves for us.
I think we'll be better off. You know, I think having another year under our belt will help us out. So whether it comes in the first few races, who knows? But I think once we get sort of to the European races, you know, 4-5 races into the season, I think we can really start to spread our wings and sort of take off in the right direction. So yeah, see how we go. It looks good. It looks good. So, you know, if we are in a few drivers' mirrors in the first few races, then hopefully we can intimidate them a little bit.
I mean, obviously last year proven that there are few improvements to be made from the power unit. We can only find out the full picture once we are Australia, Bahrain.
A look is one thing, but you know, I don't want to say yeah it looks good so we're going to drive faster, but we in terms of like race suits and boots, we obviously have a big input as drivers, and it's all about for us saving weight, you know, and the lighter we can be and the more performance we can gain from the car. So we've added quite a few details to the boots and suits and all this to try and be as efficient as we can with the clothing, and then for the team, yeah, if we look good whilst winning, then that's the icing on the cake.
Today is an absolutely fantastic day for the brand, for the company. We're really looking forward to giving everybody a chance to see the new gear, to see how we're going to kick off this partnership with Red Bull. It's going to be a great opportunity for consumers, for the F1 community, and for the company.
Where do you see yourself at the end of the 2016 season? Do you see yourself with that World Championship trophy in your hand?
I would love to say yes, you know, and I believe I'm personally in a place to go after it and do it. But as we know, you know, it's so many things involved with F1, and I don't want to be pessimistic, but we've still got a very big gap to close to, you know, the likes of Mercedes. So for me to say here right now I'll be world champion this year, there's not probably much wind behind that. So, you know, I'll be realistic and say, let's get a few more podiums, hopefully get back in the winners column, and then see where it puts us in November.
Now, since the livery launch, a lot has happened at Red Bull Racing on and off the track. Daniel Kvyat started really well in the new RB12 car, but unfortunately for him, a crash in Russia saw the team swap him to Toro Rosso, and his season has pretty much gone downhill since then. But it was great news for 18-year-old Dutchman Max Verstappen, who came in to replace Kvyat and took the team by storm by taking first place in Spain. Now, between him and teammate Daniel Ricciardo, they've now raced to 13 podium finishes with 2 races left of the season in Brazil and Abu Dhabi. So, a big thanks to everyone at Red Bull and Puma for allowing us to celebrate their partnership, and we wish Red Bull Racing all the best for the remaining races of the season. Now, this is the segment where we want to inspire you. We'll bring you stories and interviews from the people hoping to inspire the sporting generations of tomorrow. Now, in our first segment, we spoke to two young female professional golfers as they competed for a place at this year's Ladies US Open Golf Tournament.
All my family play, parents, grandparents and brother. I've turned pro +4. My parents have been lower, so we've got quite a good golfing background and really enjoy it, really. Today is 36 holes at the Buckinghamshire. Obviously the top 5 go through. If there's any ties, then we have to do a playoff, which last year it was on the 9th hole, so I think it's obviously the same again this year, and it's just the best person off the playoff then will go through, as basically play for the reserve spots as well.
I just turned 18 in March, and I started playing when I was 5½. I always think that, I've practiced hard back home and I just have to do what I always do. So just focus, get into my routine and hit one shot at a time and I'll be fine. In general, golf has to become more accessible, to a lot of young girls, and that's when they'll take it up. At least that's what I think needs to happen in my own country.
Two amazing young women who we hope have inspired you to pick up a golf club and get out in the fresh air wherever you are. Now, since filming, both ladies have been taking part in tournaments across the globe, but the highlight, surely, was for Aditi, playing at this summer's Rio 2016 Olympic Games where she competed for India. So, that's all we have time for this evening, but just to let you know, we'd like to hear your inspiring stories. Are you part of a community project, sports group or team? Then we want to hear from you, and you can get in touch with us on social media. Tweet us where you're watching your sport this weekend, your community group and team pictures to @ICSportsWeekly. You can find us on the Sports Weekly Facebook page or email us here direct at sports@islamchannel.tv. Coming up on next week's show, we talk to England and Middlesex fast bowler Toby Rowland-Jones and look back at how Middlesex won this year's County Championship cricket season. And we know you'll be inspired as we look at this amazing event earlier this year that was the Invictus Games in Florida, which saw servicemen and women from around the world coming together in the name of sport. Thanks for joining us here on Sports Weekly. Have a great sporting week, whatever you're doing. We'll see you same time, same place next week. Bye for now.